what works in the modern world is creative networks of cooperation. And one of the reasons we're in the fix we're in is what really works in modern politics is conflict carried on at a highly abstract, rhetorical, fact-free level designed to short-circuit your brain and substitute your emotions.
Many of the jury trials that I was in, only the ones that I lost as a prosecutor did I think the jury got it wrong. I never thought that as a judge, because even though I think all of the acquittals that occurred before me as a judge, in every one of them, if I had been a juror, I probably wouldn't have voted a not guilty, but I understood why the jury did.
You could have had 9,000 judges ordering integration in the South, but it took more than that. And I usually say when I talk about this to judges from Africa or Asia, I say you've got to have the people with you. You do have to have the people with you. It did take the Freedom Riders. It did take Martin Luther King. But it certainly didn't just take lawyers and judges.
When I came back, believe it or not, I don't even believe it to myself. I re-became more religious than I was before. I didn't even think about anything else. All I thought was, almost, not the same words, I'll show you. I'll show you. You don't want me to believe in you, I will believe.
The thing that's so amazing that film can do is it gives you a moment to identify with somebody that you wouldn't have identified with. And once that identification is made, across the board, any issue, once you recognize the divinity in another human being, the humanity in another human being, injustice is much more difficult to rationalize.
There is a form of terrorism which is much more serious than what my friend Fénéon was accused to do. Words are the real bombs. Wow. Words can be real bombs, and I believe that.
I am campaigning for a Muslim reformation, and I believe it's underway. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, the way to get there is not going to be through the clerics. It's going to come through a relentless process of blasphemy. Every single Muslim who looks at you and says, I'm offended, my feelings are hurt, you have to say, what hurts your feelings more? The sacred text or human life? This woman who's beaten or the sacred text? This woman who's raped or the sacred text? Human life, human freedom, human dignity matters more than any sacred text. Christians have been through it, Jews have been through it. It's now time that Muslims go through it, and we better stop kidding ourselves. If you want to help, you're going to blaspheme.
People that come from far-off lands, or our neighbors, are the ones that are the risk takers. They're the ones that don't come to get in line for government programs. That is, some people say that is just ludicrous. They're the ones that risk everything to come. Those that want to come and stay here, that embrace our values, are going to be conservative if we let them be. If we actually allow them to embrace our message and not be, sending this signal that we want everybody, of course we want your vote, but you can't be on our team. That message doesn't work. And the risk takers are what we need, and they're more Republican than Democrat in my mind.
Even if I was never involved in this, and I had only read the periodic table, these are books that are civilizing books that open you up, and that if you are a prejudiced, person, and everyone has prejudice in them, it's a way of confronting that within yourself.
Can you talk about this idea of changing history to make better art?
I would never set out to, with malice, to denigrate anyone. I think I see it, and I make my own judgments on history because I take responsibility for what I do. I would defend all my decisions on Nixon, all my decisions on the Doors, and I would never try to cross the line. or never cross the line to hurt somebody unless I had my facts.
But are you thinking about story first?
No, I would never sacrifice. No, you wouldn't do that to someone. You're dealing with a real person's life. I mean, to take it and distort it, but you don't ever change what you know to be the truth, ever.
I'm very happy I grew up in New York. I think if you grow up in New York, you're 2 steps ahead no matter where you go in the country. There's something about New York. I
think that's still true?
I tell a story. If you're from New York, if you're a D student in New York, you're mayor of Des Moines.
The original correct version is he went to a country club in Hollywood, and he had his daughter with him and some friends, and he was going to go swimming, and as he indicated he was going to, a flunky came over and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Marks, but we don't allow Jewish people in the pool." And Groucho said, "Really? You know, my daughter is only half Jewish. Can she go in up to her knees?"
I'm an actor because I didn't get cast as Cyrano in my high school play.
Is that right?
That's one of the reasons. I wanted it really badly. I thought it had been promised
This was
to me.
in some Connecticut prep school?
No, it was in a Massachusetts prep school,
okay.
but it wasn't a prep school.
Yeah. Hey, whatever happened to that guy who got Cyrano?
He became a lawyer.
We knew we were doing something potent when we were starting this show at that time. Ellen's show was canceled after she came out. And there was open concern by the network at that point that, we can't be too gay. And
they actually phrased it just like
they
that.
said, you can't, yes, no, they said, if you go back and you look at the pilot, 30% of the people who were asked after the fact did not realize that Will was gay after watching the pilot.
Tina Brown, who was the first editor that I worked for at The New Yorker, who hired me, used to talk about high and low. Stories that are, touch high important issues, but also have a sort of low down celebrity or tawdry aspect to them.
I go to business schools as part of my job of talking about how our office operates and discussing with people who are going to be the future leaders of corporate America, how they might conduct themselves and avoid, for example, me. And it's amazing because they ask questions like, the people you prosecute, are they mostly bad people who have done bad things, or are they good people who have done bad things? And there's no element of the crime of either insider trading or securities fraud or theft of government services or whatever the case may be that asks you the question, is this a good person or not who made a mistake?
The amount of money that is poured into Washington, whether it's for elections or for lobbying against regulators. I don't want to be too dramatic, but I've been in government for a long time. I loved the United States and working for the government and doing what you thought was right. You really wonder to what extent is the government for sale.
Before I stepped on the football field, I knew that you can get hurt physically. And I assumed that risk, and I went out for the team, and I played. And yeah, I got hurt. From a neurological standpoint, nobody told me that you can hurt your brain. Nobody mentions anything about hurting your brain and that having some adverse effect down the road.
The problem is in not asking the questions. That's the biggest problem. And I think if the public starts to see that its law enforcement agencies are actually acting on public concern, maybe not perfectly, but they're owning it and they're trying to find their way through it, I think over time that will restore public confidence.
Please take pity on me. What do you want me to do? She comes when I have wandered too far. And if eventually, if I am still, she goes, do not abandon me.
You wretched man, unlucky in all ways. Should I hold you in my arms?
No, not that.
This much I know. If Achilles still lived and decided to hold a contest for his arms, awarding them to the greatest warrior at the end of the day, they would be mine.
You tend to think that the forward momentum of society is forward.
but we go like a loop. You know, sometimes we go forward and sometimes we go back. And right now, we going back. But hopefully through art, the power of a story well told cannot be underestimated. That'll help us push forward once again.